Welcome to my new channel, Isshe. My name is Lucas G, and before I make this video, I just want to tell you something about myself, something which I think is important for the discussion. I like to describe myself as somewhat of a tomgirl. In other words, I understand myself as being a very feminine, gender non-conforming person, and I do feel that this particular trait is part of my biology, or my intrinsic personality, since I am a non-conformative person in general. At least, this is what I have observed in myself, looking back upon all my experiences and choices.
In personality and temperament, but they don't know it. You can have a masculine temperament if you're a woman. Maybe 1 in 10 women have the average temperament of a man. And you can have feminine men temperamentally. And it's not that uncommon because the differences between men and women temperamentally aren't that great. There are masculine girls. There are feminine boys. What are we going to do about that? Carve them up?
Now, as a very feminine person in general, I personally am becoming a little bit concerned about the lacking of clarity in America with regards to the undeniable disagreement and controversy which can be noticed by simple observation.
Can anyone tell me what a woman is?
You are not here for women! We ask you to leave!
To rise and fall in the presence of a very, very simple question. What is a woman?
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Well, you're at the Women's March, you must have some.
But is it really a simple question, or is it a little bit more complex than that? This is one of the many things which we'll be talking about today.
Women. They are a complete mystery.
This first installment is a sub-series called a.i.kido, where I intend on using Chat GPT to delve into a variety of intriguing, trending, or potentially controversial subjects.
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition.
And now to the question of the day. What is a woman? On the one hand, some struggle to provide a clear definition.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah,
I can't.
you can't?
While on the other hand, some oversimplify and reduce womanhood to something as basic as the presence of male or female anatomy alone.
You are either a man or a woman. You do not get to choose which category you belong to. You don't get to switch from one category to another. Your category does not depend on your acceptance of it or your agreement with it.
In my view, this oversimplification is a bit problematic for reasons that it only acknowledges the role of biological constructs and ignores the reality that the concept of womanhood is not just a biological construct, but also a social, cultural, and even, dare I say, a political construct as well. So, what is a construct? A construct is a human identified and defined ideal that people in a society or culture agree upon and use to understand things. It is not a tangible, material, or real physical thing, but a mental idea. The term woman as a word, a label, or an identity is a social construct, one that we can use to conceptualize the idea of womanhood. This construct includes societal and individual behaviors that are identified as belonging to this category, which we use as a society for communication and as individuals for self-expression.
It's what defines you. And with brand management, you can make sure others see you the way they want to see you.
Choosing an identity label that accurately represents yourself can be a legitimate reason for using a label or title to help others identify you. This can help you feel more comfortable and authentic in your self-expression. Ultimately, the goal is to choose a label that aligns with your own understanding of yourself, one that accurately represents who you are, but always remember to choose a label that truly represents you first. It's crucial that you truly know yourself. For how can one represent himself authentically if he does not first truly know himself?
It is actually possible for a person to perceive themselves in a way that's wrong.
Now, of course, in terms of answering the question, what is a woman? It is important to keep in mind both the simplicity of the issue on the left hand, as well as the complexity of the issue on the right hand.
Now, Matt says gender is not a social construct, but rooted firmly in biology. True?
True. As human beings, we have a sex, male or female. But as a biological scientific fact. Now, gender is a linguistic term.
Sex is unchanging. It's based on chromosomes. 99.999% of the cells in the body are marked either male or female. Gender, on the other hand, is a perception. It's a feeling. It's a way of identifying. It's an experience. Okay, that's subjective.
It is important to remember that a woman is not only a kind of physical being or person, but it is also just a word, a collection, a set or grouping of ideas or objects identified with a label or title.
I think it sounds like you would like me to give you a set of biological or cultural characteristics that are associated with one gender or the other.
I'm not seeking any type of definition. I'm just seeking a definition.
Yeah, and I gave you one.
No, you're not listening.
If I see a chicken laying eggs and I say that's a female chicken laying eggs, did I assign female, or am I just observing a physical reality that's happening in the world?
Does a chicken have gender identity? Does a chicken cry?
And while some words may be more commonly agreed upon as a society, certain definitions are easier to define. For example, words like woman are obviously words which are shaped by a wide variety of factors such as biological traits, cultural movements, religious guidelines, or simply just social norms such as all women are supposed to look like this and all men are supposed to look like this. Wait a second, I'm sorry. Guys are supposed to look like this, and girls are supposed to look like this. The fact is, this is both a simple question in one sense and a wildly complex question in another sense.
Hey, I've been meaning to ask you something.
Uh-huh.
What is a woman?
An adult human female. Who needs help opening this?
So it's fine if you understand the simplicity of the issue, but to completely ignore the complex aspect of the issue so as to declare that it does not exist or is not important, I would argue that doing so would be a serious mistake for those who claim they wish to think critically on matters in order to seek the truth.
I'm not concerned about your feelings, I'm concerned about the truth. And the truth that we're here to talk about tonight is this.
Now, before I begin to answer this question, I'm just going to be absolutely honest with everyone. This is the truth. When I set out to use set theory, Chat GPT, and logical systems and mathematics in order to answer the question, what is a woman? I naively expected this to be the answer. But instead the answer was this. In order to prove this false equation to be true, like I initially assumed it to be, and still assumed it could be at the time, I began with the next question. Is a trans woman the same as a woman? To my surprise, ChatGPT responded, yes, a trans woman is the same as a normal woman. In other words, a trans woman is a subset of the set for all women. My original goal was to use set theory to definitively distinguish between trans and cis woman in order to attempt at answering the question, what is a woman? However, as I delved deeper into the definitions of these terms and their relationships with the set of all women, I realized that my understanding was incomplete. Nevertheless, my passion for critically examining the question, what is a woman, through the lens of set theory, philosophy, and logic remained persistent as before. Whether right or wrong, I was determined to pursue this goal and present a mathematically precise analysis of the question in this video. And that is just what I think I'll have to be obligated, as a matter of principle alone, if nothing else, to want to have to now do. Ultimately, I made the decision to focus on understanding ChatGPT's perspective instead of solely trying to prove my own correctness. I realized that my initial question, is a woman the same as a trans woman, contained a bias or fallacy known as a false dichotomy. This fallacy presents a complex issue as if it can only be answered with a yes or no solution, thus creating misleading either-or scenarios. For instance, this can occur when a nuanced issue is reduced to binary claims such as either it's black or it's white, either it's yes or no, and of course either it's male or it's female. All such dichotomies are logical errors which ignore the possibility of any middle ground, as if these two were the only possible options which could possibly be true. I personally think we can arrive at forming a better question and arriving at a more precise answer with the aid of set theory and the following formulas. Formula 1 states that for every person X, if X is a woman and not a trans woman, then X is not a trans woman, and vice versa. Formula 2 states that for every person X, if X is a trans woman, then X is also a woman. Essentially, these formulas suggest that while there is a distinction between woman and trans woman, the latter group can still be classified as woman, as long as we agree on the specific definitions of a term for all women, such that X encompasses both groups. We do this to ensure the logical consistency of our analysis and the importance of establishing an accurate and precise definition for the set of all women, one that includes both groups. This result highlights the limitations of relying on preconceived notions and assumptions when engaging in philosophical inquiry, while reminding us of the importance to approach these questions with an open mind and a persistent willingness to critically examine and potentially revise our previous beliefs and assumptions. The use of mathematical systems and logic can aid in this process, but it is crucial that we use these methods carefully, with an accurate understanding of both advantages and limitations when approaching with these formal language models. While set theory can provide a useful framework for understanding the relationship between different concepts, it is important to recognize that it cannot always provide a definitive answer to every question or scenario. Instead of asking the oversimplified and potentially offensive or misleading question,
How am I harassing? I'm asking a question. Please, if one person could tell me what a woman is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth. Again, I think it's interesting that you say that some of the people you've interviewed have been reluctant to answer it, and I think that has a lot to do with the questions that preceded it and the way that you've conducted yourself in the interview.
How have I conducted myself?
How do you think you've conducted yourself?
You just really don't want to answer the questions, do you?
Well, wait a minute. Bathrooms are, you know, where you want to take this conversation instead of the basic right to just life is something that I'm kind of mystified that you're kind of not focusing on first, that we're going straight to the controversy over bathrooms. So, you know what? I think this interview is over.
Yeah.
I think this interview is over.
I just had one last question.
The interview's over.
We want to know what is a woman?
Please turn off the cameras.
Excuse me. So we're going to end the interview. If you guys could please pack up and return the office exactly.
I just wanted to know.
Okay.
I came all this way to know what.
Thank you.
They're fair. I just wanted to know what is a woman.
And you're not going to find out.
Well, now I can say I've been to college. Glad I didn't pay for it. Is there anyone willing to give me a straight answer?
instead of asking the oversimplified and potentially offensive or misleading question, is a trans woman the same as a woman, yes or no? A more precise question to ask when attempting to define the concept of womanhood is it true or is it false that not all women are trans women, but all trans women are still a subset for the set of all women? By approaching with the question, what is the definition of womanhood, we can utilize set theory to explore the possibilities of creating a more precise, effective, and all-encompassing strategy for arriving at mathematically structured definitions and arguments in order to better define a universal term for all women. Such an approach would acknowledge that there may be differences between trans women and cisgender women, while also recognizing that both groups are part of the larger category for the term all woman. Why would anyone want to redefine the definition of womanhood? Some may argue against it, claiming that such attempts could undermine the fundamental concept of what it means to be a woman, or at least in the term of how a woman is traditionally defined.
A woman has the breast.
Yeah.
Secondly, she has a vagina.
Vagina.
Things like those. For a man, he has a penis. For a woman, he has a vagina. So we know this is a lady, this is a man.
What if it's a woman with a penis?
Only in recent years has defining what it means to be a man or a woman become so challenging in America due to the increasing recognition and acceptance of LGBTQ and trans rights. With this recognition comes the freedom for individuals to express their unique and distinct gender identities, which may not conform to traditional definitions of gender. Either way we look at it, it's always important to recognize how our individual beliefs and values tend to be valid when our ultimate goal is to seek truth, to better appreciate each other and ourselves, and to strive for greater purpose together. On a bit of a detour, I want to mention that this philosophical inquiry into the definition of womanhood was deeply inspired by a new philosophical and cultural movement presented in Alain Badiou's book, Being an Event. It's important to note that this investigation is not meant to represent Badiou's personal views, his politics, nor his philosophy, but rather to simply adopt a new way of thinking inspired by his work. Badiou does suggest, however, that any time there is a particularly significant event, one which is particularly novel and new, it creates a break in the current situation, which was defined by a previous event and the resulting truth. As philosophers strive for a deeper understanding of the truth, they often challenge or dismantle old ways of thinking, leading to the emergence of new, more accurate truths. But somewhere between the destruction and reconstruction of truth, we stand uncertain at an impasse between the two, and that impasse is where I believe we currently are standing together as a society in America today in relation to these issues. Alain Badiou uses the term impasse to describe a situation where two different truths or worlds are in conflict and cannot be reconciled. According to Badiou, an impasse is a moment of crisis that reveals the limitations of the current situation and creates the possibility for a new truth to emerge. Some may argue that accepting trans rights and attempting to reconfigure the traditional definition of woman is eroding the original definition of what it means to be a woman, and therefore might be undermining the meaning of all woman. But this triviality can be viewed as a necessary step towards a more nuanced and precise definition, one which in particular does not make the logical error of excluding people like trans women as valid and legitimate subsets which belong to the set of all women. After all, a trans woman is indeed a trans woman. To exclude them from the set of all women would essentially be arguing that trans women do not exist, or there is no such thing as an authentic trans woman. In terms of set theory, this argument could be represented as follows. A trans woman is a subset of the term for all women. This notation shows that trans women are a subset of the larger set of all women, and therefore should be included in the definition of what it means to be a woman. Despite the systematic and orderly approach used in fields such as set theory, arriving at a fixed and absolute definition for the term woman remains a challenging task. This task becomes even more difficult when relying solely on ordinary language. While part of the solution lies in finding the right definitions or defining the right constructs, the quest to discover newer, more precise, and more universally accepted agreements on a specific solution to the question, what is a woman, could potentially be greatly to benefit in seeking to answer this question with the aid of advanced logic or mathematical methods such as set theory. Logic is a science after all, and philosophy can be demonstrated in the form of a legitimate science or mathematics. Yet even set theory cannot provide an absolute definition of what it means to be a woman, but then neither can any word or symbol, or construct for that matter. And yet we can always come closer and closer to seeking after the truth, as long as we keep our minds open and always are willing to listen to our conscience and to our common sense. But is it possible for set theory to present a formula that expresses what a woman consists of or is made up of? One which can account for the infinite possibilities of new gender identities or concepts such as womanhood or other important aspects such as biological features? Throughout my investigation into this question, I have spent hundreds of pages in Chat GPT discussion in order to find a solution, all in order to present the viewers with a short and precise mathematical formula and research video. Now, if any of your friends ask you to define a woman, maybe as a joke, or maybe seriously, you can offer them the following answer, one which I believe can offer at least one new viable solution to the question, what is a woman? The formula reads, for all X, X is a woman if and only if X is a trans woman, a cis woman, is genderqueer, non-binary, so on and so forth until you get to other gender identity. Other gender identity is a term used to refer to any gender identity that is not included in the list of specific identities mentioned in the formula. This is meant to be an inclusive term that acknowledges the existence and validity of gender identities that may not fit neatly into any particular category. Here's a simplified version of the formula. This formula defines a woman in a way that encompasses all gender identities, while also allowing for the continuous change and evolution within the spectrum of identities. It presents a fixed definition, but with enough of flexibility to account for the infinite possibilities of gender identities that may arise and fall under the umbrella term of all woman.
Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people who...
That describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently.
So
you
that's
want to
the
reduce
problem.
women, you want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals, our chromosomes, right? That's what you're saying.
You want to do is
that's what we are
what you want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood.
Okay.
And turn it into basically a costume that could be worn.
Ultimately, this definition serves as a strong starting point for understanding the complexity and fluidity of gender identity. After all this, I still was not satisfied with this definition of a woman, as it only accounts for gender identity and does not account for biological characteristics or ideas such as womanhood. And this is what led me to the next formulation using Chat GPT. This formula states that for all X, X is a woman if and only if X identifies as a woman or one of several other gender identities, or has female biology, or embodies the qualities associated with womanhood. Now, if there's any formula that you're going to want to take from this video today, I think it would be the one I just mentioned. I understand that some of you may be thinking that this formula only highlights the similarities among women or provides a specific definition for what it means to be a woman. However, you might also argue that these women are different in some ways, such as their biology. To gain a deeper understanding of this concept, it's crucial to acknowledge that women are not separate categories or entities from the set for all women, but rather unique and distinct subsets that do not share any common elements. Despite their differences, they are still subsets of the universal definition for all women, according to this formulation. It is important to quickly point out that in order to make this formula, we must first precisely define F and T as being defined by their elements as having these very specific properties and characteristics. Trans woman, or T, is an individual who is assigned male at birth but identifies as a woman. For female woman, F is an individual who can bear offspring or produce eggs. I then commanded ChatGPT to make an attempt at combining our two previous formulas. Initially, ChatGPT informed me that it is unable to combine the two formulas as they represent distinct concepts and cannot be meaningfully merged into a single coherent statement. However, with some further insistence, ChatGPT was able to generate more advanced formulas that allow for a combination. But nevertheless, for now it is best to focus on the implications of this rather than the technicalities of the formula. It is crucial to acknowledge that it is not entirely appropriate to categorize both trans women and cis women solely by their similarities and differences. Doing so may lead to invalidating their identities while wrongly considering them as belonging to either more or less to the subset of all women. For according to set theory, a cis woman and a trans woman have equal value in terms of the degree to which they belong to the universal term for all women. In other words, they belong neither less nor more, but equally to the set of all women. This reinforces the idea that asking whether a trans woman is the same as a cisgender woman is not the right question to ask in order to define what truly constitutes a woman, or a subset of women such as womanhood, biological features, or gender identity. In conclusion, I want to acknowledge that while I have a basic understanding of set theory and can read equations and work philosophically with these formulas, I am not an expert in the field of set theory or mathematics itself. I rely on tools like Chat GPT to create equations, but I am aware of their limitations and potential for errors. Therefore, I am open to suggestions and feedback from anyone who can offer insights or improve upon the formulas I have presented, as well as the philosophy. I recognize that my skill level in terms of set theory is likely at a novice or intermediate level, and so there is room for improvement or correction or mistake in areas where I do not have a complete understanding of set theory. However, I stand firm that this analysis was written from my own understanding, so it is very personal. Alternatively, I did use ChatGPT to do a lot of the heavy lifting, such as double-checking the consistency and accuracy of my arguments, the truth or falsehood of mathematical formulations, correct spelling and grammar, as well as speaking more fluently. And even sometimes I would tell ChatGPT to say something better than me at times where I was having difficulty communicating my thoughts. I even used ChatGPT to bounce ideas like I was working with another YouTube creator. I would say, hey, Chat GPT, what do you think about this idea? Or what do you think it's dumb that I'm saying X? And if yes, give me 5 alternative ways you would suggest I say it better. Recognizing the complexity and multifaceted nature of gender identity is crucial. Attempting to define these concepts within a binary or fixed system oversimplifies their nature and fails to capture their nuances. The idea that individuals must fit into one category or another, particularly in the context of cultural constructs like gender, is not entirely appropriate for the evolution of our culture. It is only within the more specifically defined biological construct of sex that such categorization is even possible. As many may have already noticed, the traditional understanding of what it means to be a woman is constantly being challenged by growing acceptance of trans and non-binary identities. It is therefore crucial to recognize the validity and dignity of these identities. In conclusion, I asked ChatGPT to give me a final statement. I appreciate your efforts to approach this issue with an open mind and a willingness to challenge your own initial assumptions. It is through thoughtful and respectful dialogue that we can continue to make progress towards a more inclusive and equitable society for all. The pursuit of a new definition of what it means to be a woman was inspired by the ideas of Alain Badiou. Badiou suggests that any time there is an event, it creates a break in the current situation, which was defined by a previous event and the resulting truth. In conclusion, this philosophical inquiry emphasizes the importance of approaching complex issues with an open mind and a humble willingness to critically examine and potentially revise our previous beliefs and assumptions. It also highlights the need for more nuanced and inclusive language when discussing the issues related to gender identity and gender expression. By using this approach, we can move beyond the limited and potentially exclusionary definition of womanhood as solely related to biological features, and instead arrive at a more inclusive and comprehensive understanding of what it truly means to be a woman, for the infinite potentiality of new and arising gender identities, as the inevitable result of hopefully being defined by higher degrees of human rights and human freedoms, opposed to less. After all, isn't life, liberty, freedom, and pursuit of happiness what America is all about? You're watching Isshe, Isshe, and I would like to express my gratitude to you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and would like to support this new channel, please consider liking and subscribing or leaving a comment in the discussions below. Creating this video is a labor-intensive project, as I wrote, recorded, and produced it all alone. Just because I used AI to make this video doesn't mean it didn't take a couple months of really hard work, tons of research, critical thinking, and lots of practice. I felt like with the help of ChatGPT, I had a whole team of researchers and editors alongside me, and without the help of ChatGPT or a research team, making this video would have probably taken anywhere from 5 months to a year to adequately research, opposed to 1 or 2 months. And considering that much of a time frame, it's likely I wouldn't have been able to finally complete this video at all. I think this is one good example of how helpful AI systems are going to be in the future, especially in terms of bringing the power to the people, so to speak, and a lot more freedom and power to single individuals such as myself who are working alone without any team. You're watching a.i.kido with Isshe, Isshe, and thanks again for watching.